There's two main things that could get in the way of you retiring early. In this podcast, I'm going to share what they are and how you can prevent them from happening. Reason number one is people look at their retirement picture. So they're still in their working years and they're looking out ahead into their future at their retirement years. And when they compare that picture to what is going on in the world now, they're just like, I'm just going to keep on working, man. What causes this? Either they love their job so much, which is possible, rare but possible, or they have what I would refer to as pitiful retirement ambitions. In other words, how they're seeing their retirement, what this life is going to look like, just ain't getting their motor going. I'll come back to that here in just a second. Let me just remind you of something, though, as we talked about in one of our recent podcasts. Life expectancy, guys, I mean, the bottom line is we all think one way or another, but the fact is we're going to live to about 78 years old. Are there exceptions? Of course. Some may not even be alive by the time this freaking podcast record, and some of those jokers are going to live to be 99 or 100 years old. But the average is 78. There's so much. Let me preach to you for a minute, if I will. Not religiously, but just let me get on my soapbox. There's so much in that part of life. And you look at me, I'm obviously not there yet, but I know it and you know it. There's so much in that part of life that you just simply can't do when you got to report to Walmart or JCPenney or IBM or Apple or wherever you work. You, with rare exception, can do what you want to do in retirement if you're still gainfully employed. Retirement is going to happen so fast. Look at the rest of your life, unless you're 15 years old or something like that and watching this. Just look at the last, for those of you who can remember 20 years, look at the last 20 years and tell me, let me know in the comments if you thought, that went slow. Think about your family, grandkids, locations, things you want to do, hobbies, places you want to see. You may not have the world's largest nest egg, but whether you retire with $1 billion or $500,000 or $100,000, you have just as much time as the billionaire. Now is the time. If you're in your 50s or 60s, now is the time to start figuring this out. And when I say now is the time to figure this out, I mean we should have did that a long time ago type of thing, but now is the time to get our rear ends in gear if we're not on top of our plan. Let me say this one more thing and then we'll start to move on. When you think about all the seasons, this one called retirement, once you get to the end of it, you can't go back and redo it. If you didn't have the fast car in your 20s, you could have went back in your 40s and bought it. But if you get to the end of retirement and realize that didn't go how I wanted, that's it, man. Let's go back to why certain people may not be ambitious about entering into retirement. For some, there could be some valid reasons. George, for example, this guy, he did all of the things right. I mean, maybe not all of them, but he did a good bit of them right. He lived a life participating in his 401k plan, building up his savings. He had all of the balance, all of the structure in place financially. But as the day to retire for him came, he kind of struggled to embrace it. You see, for George, the problem wasn't financial, it was emotional. George's heart ached because something vital was missing from this whole retirement plan. One key ingredient was missing from the whole thing for him. One day, sitting on his back porch smoking a cigar, it hit him. He realized what he was struggling with. It wasn't going into retirement. It wasn't what it was going to look like. For him, it was what it was going to be without, which was his precious love, Emily. George and Emily had been that couple that just lived life to the fullest during their working years and had so many stories and so many plans of what they were going to do in retirement. Cancer won the battle, and George is entering retirement without Emily. George had a valid reason to not be fired up about retirement. However, George's case isn't the case for most people. When you say most people, what it boils down to is this question. Is it because they don't have enough money or they don't know if they have enough money? So that brings us to reason number 2 of what gets in the way for some people to retire early. They get so nervous about this lack of money thing going into retirement because either 1, they don't know, or 2, It's actually true. They really don't have enough money and they know it. We'll talk about not knowing in just a second, but first let me share a few statistics with you. The company NASDAQ reports that 66% of Americans are worried they'll run out of money in retirement. 50% of Americans stated concern that they will have an unexpected major health expense. So a big chunk thinks they're going to run out. Another big chunk thinks that they're going to run into some unplanned health expense. Check this sobering statistic out. This is from NBC News. They said more than 60% of us fear running out of money in retirement more than we fear death itself. And so it's true, according to the Federal Reserve survey of consumer finances based on their 2022 study, the median average retirement for Americans aged 65 or older is $150,000. If this is you, if you're 65 years old or close to it, and you've got 150 grand, here's a couple steps and you know what they're going to be. You got to take. You got to increase your savings. You got to get that $150,000 number up. To what amount? First, you got to know what your number is. You know it's not the $150,000. You got to get that number up. But to what level? We'll talk more about that in just a second. So what are some of the basic ideas that we all know to start saving more? Be sure to max out your 401k. When I say max out, keep in mind I'm always talking about your employer match. You don't max out the whole thing. There's other things to do with your money than that. But whatever the match is at the company you work for, you gotta be filling that bucket all the way to the top. It's free money and it won't be there for you, the incoming free money part, when you're in retirement. Another way to save more leads us into the next tip, which is reduce your spending. If you're spending less, you can save more. Here's some of the top things that people approaching retirement often spend too much money on. Number one is housing, especially if you had this big house because you raised a family, 1 kid, 2 kid, 3 kids or more, and now it's just you and Agnes or you and Sally or you and Chuck or you and Tom living in this big old house when you know you don't need it. It's a pain in the butt to sell it. It's stressful. It's a lot of work, but you may have to just bite the bullet and do that. It could be the one thing that's eating you alive. Medical. Here again, people have question marks about how much money they're going to be spending. If you're healthy or you don't have any medical issues right now, now's the time to start focusing on getting into better shape. Eat better, exercise, do the things that you know are going to keep you out of that ER or keep you out of those hospital stays or keep you off of that expensive medication. Another one that you may not have saw coming is gifts. Now, I'm not going to tell you what to do with your money because it's your money. You're the one that earned it, not me. But let me offer a little suggestion. If you've got $150,000 in your savings account for retirement purposes, so in other words, in your retirement savings, and you need a lot more than that, and you're in your 50s or 60s, again, I'm not telling you what to do, but you might not want to be buying the latest PlayStation every year for little Johnny, your grandson. And I get it. When it comes to family and this type of thing, our mentality is, hey, we only live once. Hey, we only have grandkids at this younger age once. But I promise you, they'd rather have last year's version of the PlayStation versus having to take care of you in retirement or worry about if you're going to be okay financially. It's okay to give, of course, but give from your heart and your budget. They will know in time, if they don't know at the moment, that you're doing your best. The next one that's on the list we don't really need to talk about is travel. Again, guys, it's your money. Spend it however you want. You certainly don't need me barking down your throat telling you how to do it. Just remember when you do it, every time remind yourself that I have $150,000 in savings and I need 300, 500, 600, whatever your numbers are. Every time you go to spend money more than $50 or even maybe less than $50, remind yourself, hey, I've got some homework to do on my retirement plan. Is this what I should be spending my money on right now, today? Let's change all this somber talk up and talk about the good news, at least for some of you. The good news is this: for many of you, there's a good chance that you need less money than you really think you do to retire strong. First things first, you got to figure out how much you need in your nest egg. Most people don't know this. A little bit of a play on words, but you got to think of everything, but don't overthink it. What do I mean here? Do lots of averaging. Don't think about well, my electric bill is $227 today. What is it going to be in 19 years? Yes, it's smart to think about inflation, but just tack on 4% or 3% or whatever number you want at the end of all your math. You don't need to be getting into, yeah, but right now I have electricity. We're probably going to be on solar then. Electricity is a lot less. Look, just put 150, 250, 350, whatever it is for your electricity section, and move on to all the other blocks you got to add up, like medical, housing, cars, RVs, travel, all this stuff. Don't overthink it. Just average a lot and come up with a number. Next, you have your number. You know what you're going to need. Turn it into an annual number. This is how much you're going to need for retirement. Take that annual number and multiply it by 17, and voila. That's how much you should have in your nest egg approximately to live that kind of lifestyle. $50,000 times 17, $850,000. Whatever the facts are for you, if you're behind, the time to plan is now. Create your plan. It's okay if your plan means I'm going to keep working for a little while longer, or I'm going to work further into retirement than I originally thought, but that's my plan. Or your plan might be, you know what, Rich is right. I'm close enough. Let's just go for it. Retirement doesn't come around twice. Some of you just got to be kind of brutally honest with yourselves. If you didn't move mountains over the last 35 years of your working life, you may not realistically move them in the next 5. If that's the case, I'm not saying this is the time to have a pity party. It just may be a time where you got to look at things, sit back and adjust your dreams and goals a little bit. There's not one of us, well, probably very few if there's any out there, certainly not me, that aimed from 20 years out and landed on my goal just like I predicted. Just don't let not knowing or not having a plan keep you from these golden years. Hey guys, I know I touched on the rule of 17. If you're not familiar with it, I know I didn't really spend a lot of time on it just now. If you want to know how it works and how to feel super confident in why it works, check out this video right here. Hey guys, if any of you want to talk through this a little further, jump over to our website. You can see there how you reach out and contact me. And until next time, may God bless you.